Marcus Harris is a man most people pass by without a second glance. A quiet, elderly black veteran with eyes that have seen too much and a posture weighed down by time and memory after years serving as a US Marine on the brutal battlefields of Vietnam. Marcus returned home carrying scars both visible and invisible. Now retired, he seeks solace in the simple peace of a city park, sitting on a lonely bench and watching life go by. But this ordinary afternoon is about to take a shocking turn as Marcus settles into the comfort of nature. A group of police officers approaches, their suspicion clear to them. He's just another nameless face, a troublemaker, or perhaps someone who doesn't belong. Their voices rise. Passers-by begin to notice the confrontation. Tension fills the air as the officers escalate the situation. Convinced that Marcus is a vagrant, ignoring his quiet dignity and the truth of his service. The moment reaches a boiling point when the officers unleash their K9, a powerful German shepherd trained to obey without question. Onlookers brace for disaster, holding their breath as the dog charges toward Marcus. In that suspended heartbeat, the entire park watches, unsure of what will happen next, unaware that this is more than just a misunderstanding. It's the beginning of a revelation that will stop everyone in their tracks, force the police to confront their own bias, and change the community forever. What secrets from Marcus's past will come to light? How will a single moment of recognition turn an accusation into an act of redemption? The answer is far from what anyone expects. Where are you watching from? Share in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss more inspiring stories like this now. Let's get started. The city park was alive with the chatter of families, the laughter of children, and the gentle rustle of leaves overhead, yet tucked away on a faded wooden bench beneath a canopy of oaks. Marcus Harris sat almost invisible to the world around him. His hands, rough and calloused from decades of hard living, rested on his knees, steady despite the storm of memories swirling behind his quiet gaze. Marcus wore an old olive-green field jacket, the kind stitched with stories of mud rain and the smell of gunpowder. But most people passing by saw only another old man, alone with his thoughts. A little girl ran past him, her hair bouncing, clutching a melting ice cream cone. She glanced at Marcus for a moment, just a flash of curiosity before skipping away to her mother. Marcus smiled, barely, then closed his eyes, letting the warm sunlight settle on his face for a heartbeat. Peace filled him, that rare kind of peace only those who've survived chaos can truly savor. He took a slow breath, shoulders rising and falling in his mind. The world grew quiet, yet beneath that calm there was always a tension, a readiness, as if life might ambush him at any moment. That's what war does. He thought it teaches you to wait for what's next. A woman nearby noticed him, her voice soft. He sits there almost every afternoon. You know? Her companion nodded. I've seen him. Never bothers anyone. Just watches the birds. Their voices drifted kind, but tinged with distance, as if kindness itself had boundaries. The hum of the city faded behind the wall of green, and Marcus allowed himself to drift for a moment. He was far from the present, caught in memories of helicopters rain in the silent bond of brothers in arms, those memories so vivid. Some days it was like he could reach out and touch them, made him feel both proud and unspeakably lonely. His thoughts wandered. Why do people look right through me? Yet, he pushed the ache away. Instead, he watched the squirrels scramble through fallen leaves, the simple rhythm of life moving on without him. A group of teenagers played basketball across the path, their voices full of confidence and energy. One of the boys lost his grip on the ball and it rolled near Marcus's feet. The boy jogged over, hesitated, then asked, "Hey, sir, can you pass it back?" Marcus smiled, picked up the ball and tossed it, his arm surprisingly steady. The boy grinned. "Thanks, man," before running off. That tiny moment of connection left Marcus oddly hopeful. But as he watched the boy rejoin his friends, he couldn't help but wonder if anyone truly saw him, or if he was just another shadow in a world that moved too fast to care. The sun dipped lower, casting long golden rays across the park. Marcus leaned back, closed his eyes, and listened to the heartbeat of the city, steady, relentless, alive. He heard footsteps on the pavement, a gentle rhythm at first, then stronger, more deliberate. He opened his eyes and noticed 3 police officers making their way down the path, their uniform sharp voices low and serious. Marcus watched them approach, their faces set in stern lines. He felt an old familiar unease, a soldier's instinct. Something's about to change. He sat up a little straighter, folding his hands in his lap. The world just moments ago, so peaceful, seemed to tighten around him. The officers stopped just a few feet away, eyes fixed on him, their presence casting a long, cold shadow across the bench. One officer spoke. "Evening, sir. You've been here a while." His tone clipped his glance, shifting between Marcus and the park behind him. Marcus answered quietly, "Just enjoying the afternoon, officer." His voice, though soft, carried the weight of years, and something in his eyes made the officer hesitate just for a second. But then the other 2 stepped forward, their postures stiff-mined, "Telling us why you're here. This park closes soon." Marcus felt the old ache return, a mixture of sadness and resignation. He searched their faces for a trace of understanding, but all he found was suspicion. He looked away, eyes tracing the sunlight slipping through the branches. The air grew heavy with words left unspoken, and Marcus braced himself, knowing too well that in this world sometimes survival meant enduring, even when you'd already survived so much. The golden light of late afternoon draped the park in a gentle hush. But for Marcus, the warmth had faded, replaced by a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. The 3 police officers stood in a tight cluster before him, uniforms crisp, their radios crackling softly with distant voices. Marcus felt the gaze of every bystander flickering in his direction. Some were curious, others wary, a few, perhaps, quietly sympathetic. The first officer, a broad-shouldered man with a square jaw and tired blue eyes, spoke up again. "You got somewhere to be, sir. It's not safe to be out here this late for someone like you." His voice trailed off, leaving something ugly hanging in the air. Marcus straightened his back, forcing himself to meet the man's eyes. "I'm just sitting, thinking I come here every day. This is where I feel at peace." A second officer, younger, restless, glanced at his watch. "Park closes in 30 minutes. You sure you're not waiting for someone?" Marcus shook his head. "No, officer, just enjoying the sun." There was a tremor in his voice, not of fear, but exhaustion, the kind that builds after years of being questioned for simply existing. A small crowd began to form at a distance. A mother gathered her 2 daughters close, her face tense. An elderly man in a red ball cap muttered, "Let the man be." But his voice was swallowed by the tension. The third officer, a woman with her hair pulled tightly back, knelt down to Marcus's level, her tone softer, but her posture rigid. "Sir, we just need to make sure you're not causing trouble. We've had complaints about loitering lately. People are worried." Marcus looked at her, hurt flickering across his face. "Do I look like trouble?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman hesitated for a moment. Something in her eyes softened, but then she remembered her duty. She stood up, smoothing her uniform, and looked away. "We're just doing our job, sir." Marcus let out a slow, heavy sigh, his shoulders sagging beneath the weight of invisible armor, his hands clenched and unclenched in his lap. Memories crashed over him, years of fighting, protecting, surviving, only to come home and find that peace is sometimes denied, even in the simplest places. He wanted to shout, "Don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I've done?" But the words never left his lips. Instead, he sat in the golden hush, feeling the sharp sting of invisibility across the grass. The teenage boys from the basketball court paused, ball in hand. One of them, a lanky kid with deep brown skin and hopeful eyes, watched the scene unfold. He whispered, "That's not right." To his friends, they shuffled their feet, unsure if they should step forward or keep their distance. The officers began speaking to each other in low voices. The words, "Clipped. Doesn't seem drunk. No ID, should we run him for warrants?"
Marcus sat quietly, every syllable piercing deeper than any wound. Suddenly the officer with tired blue eyes addressed Marcus again. "Sir, do you have identification on you?" Marcus nodded slowly, reaching into his worn jacket pocket. He handed over an old leather wallet. The officer flipped through it, pausing at a faded Marine Corps ID. He stared surprised, then quickly looked away, as if embarrassed to have found something that didn't fit the story he'd built in his head. The officer handed the wallet back. His voice, "Less sure you were in the Marines?" Marcus met.
His gaze steady, unwavering. Yes, a long time ago. The silence that followed was loaded. 3 officers, a veteran and a crowd teetering between judgment and compassion. Someone in the distance whispered, "Thank you for your service." But the words faded on the wind, too faint to make a difference. The first officer cleared his throat. "We're just looking out for the community, sir, you understand?" Marcus nodded tiredly. "I understand more than you think." The crowd grew, the park suddenly alive with whispers and uncertainty. The moment hung fragile, charged with meaning as the sun slid lower, casting long, dramatic shadows across the grass. And still, Marcus sat waiting, enduring, wondering if there would ever be a day when he could simply exist without having to explain why he belonged. The atmosphere in the park thickened, every eye watching, every whisper amplified by tension. Marcus could feel it, the weight of suspicion. The silent judgment passed from stranger to stranger. His Marine Corps ID, meant to be a badge of honor, was now just another piece of evidence to be inspected, not respected. The first officer, Officer Dalton, shuffled uncomfortably. His gaze lingered on Marcus's weathered face, searching for some hidden truth. The second officer, Riley, grew impatient, pacing a few steps back and forth. "Look, we have rules here. This park isn't a shelter." "Okay." Marcus looked down, his hands trembling ever so slightly, though his voice was calm. "I'm not asking for anything. Just a little peace, officer." Riley scoffed, his voice rising. "You know how many calls we get about people loitering. I'm tired of having to run folks off just so families feel safe here." A nearby mother hugged her daughters a bit closer. The older girl, sensing the unease, whispered, "Is he in trouble?" Her mother forced a smile, but her eyes betrayed uncertainty. Officer Dalton tried again, his tone softer but guarded. "We're not saying you did anything, sir, but we can't just have people hanging around for hours. It makes people nervous, you know." Marcus took a slow breath, glancing at the crowd. He caught the eyes of the teenager from the basketball court, who looked back with hesitant empathy. "Why are they bothering him?" the boy muttered under his breath. His friends murmured in agreement, shuffling their feet, but not daring to speak up. The third officer, Officer Martinez, finally joined the conversation. Her eyes flickered between Marcus and the others. "We're not trying to be the bad guys here, but we need to keep order. Maybe you could move along for today." Marcus looked at them, frustration and sadness mingling in his expression. He stood, his movement slow. "Is it so wrong to just want a quiet spot? I serve this country. This is my home too." Officer Riley's expression hardened. "We've all got jobs to do, so rules are rules." Dalton hesitated. "Come on, Riley, let's not." But Riley interrupted, gesturing sharply. "Let's just wrap this up all right." A hush fell over the park. Even the birds seemed quiet, as if honoring the discomfort in the air. The teenagers gathered their basketball, glancing nervously at the officers. The mother on the bench whispered, "Maybe we could go to her children." Marcus straightened his jacket, preparing to leave. Each step felt heavier than the last. He paused, looking back at the officers, his voice trembling. "You don't know what it's like coming back, trying to find your place again. I fought for this country. I thought maybe I'd finally found somewhere I could just breathe." Dalton's eyes flickered with guilt. "We're just following procedure." Marcus shook his head, resigned. Procedure doesn't see the person, only the problem. Suddenly, from the corner of the park, a loud voice broke the tension. "Hey, that man's a hero. My father served with him in Vietnam. He's not a problem." An older black man, tall and sturdy, walked briskly toward the group. His presence
commanding respect. He wore a battered cap adorned with military pins. His eyes met Marcus's, and recognition flashed between them. Marcus, is that you? Marcus's face softened, relief flooding his features. Clarence. It's been a long time. Clarence turned to the officers, his voice steady and fierce. You see this man? He saved lives over there. More than I can count. He doesn't deserve this officer. Dalton hesitated. Midges. But Clarence cut him off. Whoever risked it.
Your life for someone who didn't look like you. You ever stood in the line of fire and brought your brothers home? Marcus did. He's not just some stranger in the park. He's a Marine. He's family. A ripple moved through the crowd. Someone murmured, "That's right." Another nodded in agreement. The teenagers looked at Marcus with newfound respect. The mother let out a shaky breath. Her daughters, watching wide-eyed Officer Martinez, visibly affected, cleared her throat. "We're not here to disrespect anyone, sir. We just have a job to do." Clarence held Marcus's shoulder steady and strong. "And so do I. My job's to stand up for those who stood up for us." Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, overwhelmed by gratitude and pain. Officer Riley, now defensive, snapped, "All right, that's enough. Let's move." But in that instant, the K9 unit, unseen, until now, rounded the path, a large German shepherd straining at the leash, its handler barely keeping pace. Dalton called out, "Let's just keep this civil, okay?" Marcus looked at the dog. His breath caught in his chest. The energy in the park shifted, anticipation crackling through the air. Nobody knew what was about to happen. The late afternoon sun stretched shadows across the park, coloring the scene in gold. And tension. Marcus stood beside Clarence, the heaviness in his chest growing with every heartbeat. All eyes shifted to the path where the German shepherd, muscular alert, pulled eagerly at his handler's side. The dog's handler. Officer Matthews approached with brisk authority, his face tight with duty. Officer Riley, seizing the moment, gestured sharply. "That's enough talking. Let's clear this area." Clarence planted his feet, voice unwavering. "He's done nothing wrong. You can't just..." But Riley cut in. "We have orders, sir. We'll handle it." The German shepherd fixed its gaze on Marcus, ears perked, body taut. Matthews gave a command. "Stay." And the dog sat still, staring, muscles quivering with anticipation. The tension in the air crackled every bystander, every officer, every breath caught on the edge of something inevitable. Marcus looked at the dog, a flicker of something deeper flashing in his eyes. He swallowed. Memories, surging, jungle rain mud underfoot, the roar of helicopters overhead, and the deep, wordless bond only a soldier and his canine partner could understand. Officer Riley, voice raised, barked, "Step away from the bench, sir, now." Clarence tensed hands, balling into fists. "This is wrong, you know it is." "But," Dalton interjected nervously, "let's keep it calm, everyone. There's no need for trouble." Children had stopped playing, their parents drawing them near. Phones were out, some filming, some poised, just in case the teenagers on the basketball court abandoned their game. Drifting closer faces etched with anxious curiosity. Matthews, sensing the scrutiny, squared his shoulders. "Last warning, sir. If you don't leave the park, we'll have to remove you." Marcus met his gaze, steady, resolute. "Where do you want me to go?" Matthews hesitated. "Anywhere but here." Clarence's voice, raw with emotion, pleaded, "Let him be, that's all he wants, to just sit in peace." Riley ignored him, nodding at Matthews. "Deploy the dog. Let's move this along." Matthews' jaw clenched with a curt motion. He loosened the leash. The shepherd sprang forward, barking sharp, commanding, "Get back!" Someone cried. A mother shielded her daughters. Clarence stepped in front of Marcus, but Marcus, suddenly calm, put a gentle hand on Clarence's arm. "No, let him come." The shepherd closed the distance in seconds. Its powerful body was a blur, moving with the precision of endless training. But as it neared Marcus, something shifted. The dog slowed, nose twitching, eyes locked onto Marcus's face. Recognition sparking in its gaze, Matthews yelled, "Max, hold!" But the dog barely heard. The entire park seemed to hold its breath. Marcus knelt down, hands open. "Hey there, old boy," his voice breaking into a whisper full of memories. "It's me, Marcus." The shepherd Max stopped inches from him for a moment. Time froze. Then, with a whimper, Max pressed forward, tail wagging, head nuzzling into Marcus's chest. The tough, disciplined canine melted into a puddle of pure devotion, whining softly as if